Hello my friends and welcome back to the Dinosaur channel. This is your home on the internet for all things dinosaur and prehistoric, and today we're going to be talking about Prehistoric Planet's second episode, Deserts. Prehistoric Planet is a show that you can watch on Apple TV Plus right now for absolutely free by signing up for a free trial membership. I highly recommend it because it lasts for 7 days and the show is coming out in succession every day, a new episode for the next 5 days. Alright, so episode number 2. Let's catch up first of all on all the species that we're going to be seeing in this episode. Before we do that, I just want to remind you guys that if you become a member, you can unlock some cool perks on this channel, like icons and emojis that you can use when commenting, interacting with us. And I would really appreciate it. It would super much support my channel during this crazy time. Anyhow, let's list off the species that we're going to see in this episode. In episode 2 of Prehistoric Planet, Deserts, we see the Dreadnoughtus, the Tarbosaurus, the Velociraptor, some unidentified species of pterosaur, Mononycus, bear with me on the pronunciation of this one, Enantiornithes, Barbalodactylus, some sort of species of therizinosaur, some sort of species of ankylosaur, Barbalodactylus that we saw in episode 1, ciceronosauruses, and I believe the Mongolian titanosaur that we saw was some sort of chimerosaur, but I cannot verify that information. But yeah, this episode hits hard because there are a lot of dinosaurs. It's very interesting, and in my opinion, a way better episode than the first episode we saw. Anyway, let's get into recapping the episode. What happened in this amazing episode of Prehistoric Planet? And keep in mind, there will be spoilers, so if you haven't watched it yet, go watch the episode and then come back to us. So we start off by entering the Dreadnoughtus Fight Club. This is pretty much a Titanosaur fight club. You know, we had an idea from the trailers of what this was going to be, but of course, somehow I feel like the creators of Prehistoric Planet and Jurassic World got together and were like, alright, let's include all the same dinosaurs in both the movies that are coming out this summer so you can see the fake movie monster version of it and the realistic depiction of it. And again, I say realistic in air quotations because these bizarre gular air sacs that they're referred to are something out of this world. Basically, imagine inflating grapefruits coming off the necks of these titanosaurs. It was incredible to see Dreadnoughtus in this very aggressive fighting stance with beautiful colors, and these two chunky boys just go at it until one of them literally gets killed. It's a very, very ruthless fight and actually a lot more graphic than I imagined, so I really appreciated seeing this. It's always cool to see sauropods getting aggressive. Next up, we jumped up to one of my favorite parts of this episode, which was the Tarbosaur/Velociraptor interaction. It starts off with a chain reaction from a little lizard that's hanging out in the desert that sees the carcass of a sauropod, that sees that pterosaurs are not approaching the carcass of the sauropod, then sees the reason why is because of a Tarbosaurus pack, which then decides to actually eat the flies off the Tarbosaurus, which then attracts a Velociraptor to try to consume the lizard, which then wakes up the Tarbosaurus, and then everything goes to hell. It's an amazing, very realistic interaction between these animals. Everyone looks incredible. Everyone acts incredible. I would say the Tarbosaurus looks strikingly similar to the Tyrannosaurus Rex, almost just like having a different skin pattern, and the Velociraptor is my favorite Velociraptor I've ever seen in any media ever. It's amazing, and I'm so sad that it kind of got snubbed in this episode. It only appears for a very short amount of time. We don't have that much footage of it outside of what we saw in the trailers. I mean, we have significantly more, but just not enough to my heart's content. I really appreciated this Velociraptor. It's just amazing. The way that it moves around feels so realistic, and we actually get to see two of them running around together at the same time at one point. After that scene, when the Tarbosauruses eventually wake up and leave, the unidentified species of pterosaur flies down and starts consuming the sauropod carcass. Then we head off to our fun scene with the Mononycus. This is really cool because they depict the Mononycus having an anteater tongue, but it's also a carnivore that consumes small animals and bugs. Seeing the Mononycus with a flicking long tongue double the size of its head and almost a barn owl sort of fur, it's just amazing. The thing looks like the border of a mammal, a bird, and a lizard all at once. It's really, really cool. And they made it a little chubby boy too, so he's got a little pot belly going on. Really, really fun part of the episode where we see him even using his claws, sort of like this very, very sloth and anteater-like, digging into a termite mound and getting termites out with its tongue. And of course it starts raining, and that kind of messes with the Mononycus's feeding patterns and sort of screws up its whole behavior. And we then jump off to the Barbalodactylus. These are massive hadrosaurs that existed in the desert, and they're kind of depicted as the camels of the late Cretaceous, walking around trying to find a source of water. And then we're ushered into my favorite part of this entire episode. I don't know how they're going to top it. The watering hole sequence, where we have tons of different species of dinosaur all congregating at once to drink the little bit of water that rained down in the middle of the desert. The amount of dinosaurs that we get most of which are not even named, like the Mongolian titan, which we established earlier, the type of species it was, some unidentified species of Therizinosaur, some ankylosaurs that are walking around in the background, and then of course we even see the Mononycus make a comeback, and you just see all these animals interacting with one another, and eventually at one point a Tarbosaurus actually comes down, and everybody makes space for him and lets the Tarbosaurus take a sip of the water without attacking. This is so freaking cool. This really is this is what we've needed to see. It's not just dinosaurs fighting all the time and attacking each other. You're getting to see real interactions, real lifestyles between herbivores and carnivores, between prey and predator, respecting each other's distances and living and coexisting in the same habitat. It's incredible. And of course, all the landscapes as we bounce around the different deserts of the world are taking place in some parts of the Sahara in Africa, and you can see there's other shots here from the Grand Canyon and Monument Valley in Arizona, and these are places, some of them I've been myself, and it's so cool to see dinosaurs plopped into them. And of course we jump off to another scene now where we have the Barbalodactylus that we had in the first episode back again, and this time we're actually getting to learn about the mating habits of this pterosaur. So we learn that these crests are obviously used for mating displays to mate with females, but some of these sneaky little Barbalodactyluses don't have crests, and they pretend to be females when the larger Barbalodactylus tries to mate with them, and then they still end up mating. It's really, really cool. The interactions are super goofy, super funny, and you can kind of see that while they don't have much going on up there, they can really analyze the situation, and they're just beautifully rendered out. These animals look really, really real with all the little pycnofibers and the different colors. I had so much fun watching these pterosaurs interact with one another, and especially when one of them eventually gets the mating rights. It's just so much fun. So then we jump off to a really weird sequence, which is sort of the gypsum desert. It's now a desert that's not covered in sand, but gypsum. And inside of the gypsum desert, we have animals called ciceronosauruses, and they are another species of a small hadrosaur, and they're on their migration following the stars to try to find a source of water. It's actually a really tough journey, and the sequence sort of drags on for a while, and you just see them getting tired, and the babies are crying, and you can just really see them and really feel for them struggling, and everything looks really real, until at one point they start feeling mist on them from the ocean, and they eventually find a source of water and plant life. It's really rewarding, as the sequence is kind of hard to watch, and it gets a little dull at times, but at the end of the episode, it's actually really fun because you do get that satisfaction of them making it to safety. And none of them die along the way, which is nice as well. I have to be honest, throughout the entire episode, I was really hoping for the velociraptor to pop up again and at some point hunt someone down. And that kind of disappointed me, especially towards the end, because I was hoping that they would take advantage of a small hadrosaur like ciceronosauruses being attacked by a velociraptor. But I also understand that they were completely two different regions of the Earth. All that being said, this was an incredible episode of Prehistoric Planet. The CGI wise, I just want to touch on it briefly. Impeccable, better than anything I saw in the first episode. I think just because of the environment, because of all these harsh tans and browns that we see around, everything blends in really well, and these are colors that are really easy for our brains to sort of understand. I really implore you to watch the episode and focus on the individual hairs and the individual feathers that we see on the Mononycus. It's unbelievably realistic, and at points in time when I'm looking at it, it really felt like a real animal. The velociraptor as well, as while you could see that most of the body was CGI, especially when it comes to the claws and the snouts and the eyes, it just looks like a real animal. It's phenomenal. Everything done was just amazing. I loved the broad concepts that we tackled in this episode, especially the stories, and how much I felt for every single animal in the series. Everything done in this series so far has been done on a larger scale than anything I've seen before it in any other documentary, and this episode proves the point. From the sauropod fights to the watering holes to the insane migrations across the deserts, they're playing with every aspect of the prehistoric world we can imagine, whether it's mating, the actual topographical environment, the smaller species that existed. I honestly have nothing but amazing things to say about Prehistoric Planet thus far. Also briefly want to touch on the score. The score for this episode, especially compared to the last episode, is unbelievable. They touched on so many Middle Eastern and sort of deserty elements in the music, and in every single segment of the episode, the music tied in perfectly. It was so well done, so well choreographed. You can really see that they put a lot of thought into dramatizing every single moment of the episode. Whether it's the velociraptor being sneaky, the epicness of the waterhole, the mating rites, or just the long, dreaded journey at the end. It's really well put together. In the next episode, we're covering the Dinosaurs as we're heading into the wetlands or the swamps, and I'm really excited for that. Anyways, make sure you subscribe and turn those notifications so you don't miss a single episode, because we're going to cover every single episode of Prehistoric Planet right here on the Dinosaur channel. As well, you can support us by joining and becoming a member on this channel and unlocking those fun emojis and icons. We'd really appreciate it in this crazy time, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode of Prehistoric Planet.